So glad to see everyone here tonight. So this week we are going to be talking about being under construction. That's a pretty cool thing. You ever been by a construction site where they've got lots of loud noises, lots of big equipment, lots of machinery going down? It's because they're trying to build something new, something cool, something strong. And it all starts with our plans. So this week we're going to see how God gives us those plans. We're going to see how God provides us with all the tools that we need. We're going to see how God lays the foundation on which we build our lives, on which the church is built, His kingdom here on this earth, and on which we ourselves are built. So tonight what we're going to talk about is those plans. Now I love a good set of plans. It's a fresh start. You've got something new that you can start to build on. And did you know that God gives us all the plans that we need to build? Now when God's people, the Israelites, were free from Egypt, Moses led them through the desert for a long time. And the desert isn't a great place to walk through, is it? It's kind of hot and dry and humid, so they needed some guidance. And God gave them just that. He gave Moses the 10 Commandments. Have you ever heard of the 10 Commandments? Did you know that those are part of God's plan for us? Well, He gave those 10 Commandments to Moses on this mountain. And He gave them a bunch of other laws too. And one of these other laws was to build the tabernacle, a special tent that allowed God's presence to travel with the Israelites as they journeyed through that desert. He gave the Israelites very, very specific instructions on how to build that tabernacle and what was supposed to be inside it. So tonight we're going to take a journey. It's going to be a cool journey, and we're going to see the tabernacle and how it was made. And we're going to learn all about what the Israelites built with God's plans.
And so we are going to look at first a replica of, and that means something that was made to look like the tabernacle. And a tabernacle is a place where people can go to worship God. And this was God's instructions for it to be built. God gave Moses the complete instructions for His tabernacle and everything in it. The tabernacle was built facing the east. Do you know where the east is? Does anyone? Yes. Can you tell me what you see every morning that comes up in the east? The sun, yes, the sun comes up in the east. And so it always faced east wherever it was. It was made, as you can see, it was going to be made, God told Moses, of wood, acacia wood, that was covered in gold, that was overlaid in gold. And it was going to be 45 feet long and 15 feet wide. And it would have 2 rooms in it. The 2 rooms would be a square room and a rectangle room. And when we get through, you'll be able to look inside it and see these 2 rooms, and you'll see all of the furniture and the special things that were in these 2 rooms. So we're going to start, first of all, this is what God told the Israelites and told Moses to begin with when he was setting the tabernacle up, that he was to first make the tabernacle here, and he would then, let's put that back up on the post. There we go. He would then have him furnish it with these different pieces that would be very special in the tabernacle. The first and the square room that was the most sacred room was called the Holy of Holies. And that meant it was the most sacred, divine, special place of God, because God was going to be connected to it in a sense. And we'll, if you can remember how the Israelites knew God was with them. How did he travel with them? Do you remember there was a pillar of cloud by day, and then at night a pillar of fire that was with these people, and it was going to stand every day and every night right over this tabernacle. And there was a special piece of furniture in that tabernacle, and I forgot to tell you, the inside of the tabernacle was hung with curtains, and the curtains were just beautiful. They were white, and they had, listen to these colors, they were blue and purple and scarlet. Scarlet is red. And these curtains were interwoven with these colors to make cherubim. There were cherubim on all of the curtains. That's a kind of angel. We don't know exactly what it looks like, but they were a type of angel and very special to God. And he told Bezalel was the mastermind that God gave to oversee this and to know exactly what was to be done. And we see that Bezalel had a helper with him, and they had the Spirit of God, and they were given all the instructions, and they taught the other workmen how to do these very special things. These curtains were made because they were told how to do them. And so in this Holy of Holies, the holiest place, there was the most wonderful piece of furniture. And in Holy of Holies, remember, it's this one, and it faces east, and so this is where God was. And we look up here, and we're going to see this special sacred piece. And it was made by Bezalel because God wanted him to build it for him. It's the only piece that Bezalel specifically built. But he built this Ark of the Covenant, it is called. This bottom part is called the Ark of the Covenant. And this Ark had 2 tablets or tables of God's commandments on it. Do you remember that he gave 2 tablets to Moses, and God wrote on those tablets? Well, they are placed inside this ark, and it is a chest like, and it is very special. It has rings of gold on it because it is made inside with the acacia wood. That everything that was built was made with acacia wood, and it was overlaid with gold inside and out. And then it had this special rim that went around it, and it was there to stabilize the lid or the top that is set on top of it. The poles are made of acacia wood, overlaid in gold, and then we have this most precious piece that was made. It is called the mercy seat. Mercy seat, or the let's see, there's one. There's another word that I can't think of, but we'll just remember that it is the mercy seat. And this was built of one piece of pure gold, and it was hammered out. And as it was hammered out, it also, Bezalel made these 2 cherubim on either end of it, and they were kneeling on it, and they spread their wings over their head toward the ceiling, and the ceiling I forgot to tell you, was made of 3 layers of material. The first one was of goat's hair. The second one was of ram skin that was dyed red in that color. And then the third layer was made of sea cow skin. And we don't know particularly what that was. Perhaps a sea cow might be a manatee, or porpoise, or badger is even reckoned that it might be. And so we have these cherubim that are solid gold who are here, and they face one another just as these would be facing one another with their wings up, and then they would be looking down as though they were bowing to God, because God was above this Ark of the Covenant. It was called the Shekinah. That's a big word, Shekinah. And that was when that cloud, pillar of cloud, and then the pillar of fire came right down directly to the Ark of the Covenant. And so it was a very, very sacred place. And no one could go in it except the high priest once a year. And when he came in, he brought some blood, the blood of the sacrifices that were made. He brought the blood in, and he put blood on this Ark of the Covenant, sprinkled it on there. He didn't touch it, but he sprinkled it on there. And then there was a blue cloth that covered it when it was taken out of the Holy of Holies. When they moved, because when that cloud rose, that meant they had to start moving. They were going to move somewhere else. And when it stopped, they stopped. And they made their living place there around the ark. They had tents all around the tabernacle. And so the ark was carried on the shoulders, just like this. Because they could never touch the ark or they would die. They would die. Then there was in front of this, to make a petition for the entire room, there were curtains, and guess what? They were all the way up above to the ceiling, and they were on posts, 4 posts, and they were made of the linen that had 3 colors. What were those 3 colors? Can anyone tell me? Blue. Can someone tell me? Blue. The next one was what? Purple. And the next one was scarlet. That was red. Yes. And so they had the cherubim, the curtains, had these cherubims embroidered or woven into that fabric. And so this separated the Holy of Holies from the holy place, which is the bigger room. 2 rooms, remember. And the bigger room was the holy place. And when we go into the holy place, we're going to find that on the left, there would always be this table. It is called the table of showbread. And we have loaves of bread which are on these platters. Can you see these gold platters? And you see these pieces of showbread were on there. There were 2 plates on there, and each one had 6 loaves of bread. Now, it was made of acacia wood overlaid in gold. It had the rings on the legs, and it had the acacia wood poles covered in gold, and it was there for a week. This bread was there for a week. Every Sabbath, it was changed. Every 7th day, it was changed. New bread was brought in by the priest. It could be eaten by the high priest and his sons, Also, we find that it had other particles or other articles that were sitting here, a pitcher and some dishes, and they were all gold. And these were pure gold plates. The Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat were all pure gold. All of these others had some pure gold pieces, but they were not as fine as the Ark of the Covenant. So they are all overlaid in gold, and this has a rim around it that is to keep the dishes from falling, and no one came and bothered this. The priest came in, and he was the one to eat it. And next we have, across the room in the holy place, we have the lampstand, the golden lampstand. It was a gorgeous and beautiful piece. It was made of hammered gold, pure gold. And did you know it weighed 75 pounds? 75 pounds of pure gold. It had a base on it down here, and then it had all of these flowers that were hammered into it. The gold was hammered into the shape of flowers and blossoms and buds. And then it had 6 branches. It had the main shaft, which is called, this is called the main shaft. And then these 3 branches were also hammered, and they had the blossoms, the flowers, and then up here at the top, they had cups shaped like an almond tree, or shaped like almonds. And in those cups was pure olive oil. And in those cups there was a wick, and guess what? They were lit. And this was the only light in the holy place. There was no light in the Holy of Holies. This was the only light that was in the holy place. And this had to be lit every morning, and the oil changed if it needed to be, and it had to be lit every morning and every evening by the high priest or his sons. And it was a beautiful, beautiful piece, and it gave the light, just as we are to be the light of the world. It was the light of the holy place. And next, in the holy place, we have here the altar of incense. Because there was so much being cooked all the time, there needed to be a sweet smell in here, in this holy place. And this was it was incense. It smelled good. And we had some incense in here that was smelling pretty good, but it's gone out. And the priest had to come every single morning and night, because there always had to be a sweet savor, a sweet smell going up to God, just as our prayers are to be a sweet savor to God going to Him. And it was made of pure gold. It had the had the poles that were carried where they buy these rings that were attached to these. It also was made of acacia wood and overlaid in gold. And everything had to be carried where? On the shoulders of the priests. Yes, there were certain men who had to carry these objects. And then we go out the front door of the Holy of Holies. That's the only door to the Holy of Holies, to the tabernacle. And this had what? Curtains. Curtains all the way across. And what color were they? Okay.
White, blue, purple, and scarlet.
Yes, very good. Yes, all 3 colors. they had cherubim on them, woven or embroidered. And then we go outside. And when we go outside, we're going to find the brazen altar. The brazen altar is where all the meat was roasted or was broiled. No, not broiled. It was cooked over this. I'm sorry. And we notice that it has horns. It has horns. The brazen altar had horns on every corner, and it was all brass. The brass covered the wood, and the smell came out of this. Have you ever smelled meat roasting on an outside fire? Well, that's what it smelled like here. And the high priest was the only one who would come and make these sacrifices. And also, we don't have it on here, but we had horns on this altar of incense also. There were 4 horns, a horn on each corner, just as it is on the brazen altar. It was brass or bronze inside and out because it was made of wood, but brass does not burn easily. So we find that all of the meat and the sacrifices were made on this altar. And this was extremely, a lot of work that had to be done there. There were also, this was brass. It wasn't gold because it was outside. And so it was made of brass. And then there was a brass grate inside where the meat could sit on it, and then the fire was below that. And they had all kinds of shovels and pans and forks where they could turn the meat. You know how that is. And then before the priest left this brazen altar, before he came to the brazen altar, he had to go over to this bronze laver or basin. It's called a laver, but it's a basin. He had to wash his hands and feet before he went to the altar to make a sacrifice. He had to be clean. And so he washed his hands and feet there. And also, he had to wash his hands and feet before he came into the tabernacle. Because God said he would die if he did not wash his hands and feet before he came into his tabernacle. And so, we have all of this furniture here, but we have the courtyard. Everything, as we look at this example over here, we see that there is a fence all the way around this. This is called the courtyard. And the courtyard also had a gate to it. And the gate to it, guess what? All of this is curtains, and these are all brass and bronze posts. And of course they had their ropes and their pins that would hold it down. But it had an entrance to it. And guess what color? What color would it be?
Blue, purple, scarlet, white.
That's right. Blue, purple, scarlet, and white. And it also had the cherubim on it. There were 5 curtains here, because, 5 posts here, excuse me, because one of the curtains had to be folded to kind of make a thick piece of fabric that they could open. And so we have all of the courtyard. We have the brazen altar, the basin, the laver, and then we go into the entrance to the holy place, and then to the Holy of Holies. And so I hope you have learned something about how special this is. And as it is going to, if we have time, we would like for you to file out and file by this. If you'll just keep your hands down, we'll let you see that. And will we have time to?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's time to go to class, but we'll let the teachers, if they want to, they can take them around.
So just remember, everyone, that there were a lot of details, right? And God gave the Israelites all the plans they needed to get all of those details right. Did you know God gives us plans today? Where do you think you can find those plans? In the Bible, that's exactly right. So that's what we're going to learn about. How to use that Bible to build our lives up for God and to build His kingdom. Thank you, everybody.